So I got just a couple quick stories here, things that are kind of breaking, so I don't have a whole lot of information on them. But there was a shooting in Corpus Christi, Texas, at a naval base this morning, and essentially what happened was the gunman showed up at a checkpoint to enter the naval base, and he pulled out his firearm and shot the female guard in the chest. But luckily, she did have her Kevlar on, and she is recovered. I believe she's actually out of the hospital. Um, and most information was rather dark until about 2 p.m. and we found out that the gunman was dead, and it was all over. Um, so the one interesting thing that comes out of this um, is the fact that they quickly already called it an act of terrorism, which I do find interesting because usually they're very, very quiet about these things and they don't really say too much. And maybe because there was no victims. I mean, there was, yes, there was the female guard who was shot, but she's fine. But no one else was injured. It was a fairly messless event that took place. But to quickly turn it to an act of terrorism leads me to believe a couple things. And look, I have no idea. I have very, very little information on this. But it leads me to believe that something that was found either to tie in with the Pensacola terrorist attack, or the scumbag who tried to do this shooting was, in fact, from a different country. Those are the two things that the only reasons I can believe that why they would call it terrorism so quickly. Because we've had tons of mass shootings, and if it's a born and bred American, they never call it a terrorist. So and look, I know that a lot of people are jumping on that bandwagon of, well, the one in Florida, naval base shooting. We find out this week, in fact, act of terrorism. Naval base, Texas, terrorism, those two have to be linked. And that's a very easy parallel to see, and that's why I throw that out there as well. I don't have any fresh take on that. I don't have anything. The only thing I have that no one else is saying is I believe that he probably is or was someone of Middle Eastern descent. And that's just because of the way that we categorize things in this country. um, but yeah, it's a good thing on this one that there was no deaths besides his, and that the military and the personnel responded in a way that they did so that they could avoid this messy situation. Also in the news was another story I really haven't talked about too much, but had to do with Ahmuad Arbery. I think that's how you say his name, or Ahmuad Arbery. Anyway, so I think most people have seen this video. There's a black gentleman running down the street, and you hear two people talking, and then there's some sort of discussion, and then you hear gun fire, and then you see the black gentleman collapse. So that whole case lay dormant for forever, and it looked like it was just gonna go away. Then the video comes out. We find out, okay, the father and son, it looked like it was almost like premeditated murder. They said that, well, he was looking around in a construction site, and they believed he was stealing something. Reports come out, and a video comes out showing him in there. It shows him looking, and then just turns around and leaves. He didn't take anything. Further reports show that the older man and his son said that there were a lot of robberies in that neighborhood. And then reports show that no, there wasn't, aside from the old man himself had reported missing a handgun. So the father and the son are arrested. and they're being held right now. Well, breaking today, the video that kind of shined a light on this incident and maybe brought justice to a situation that needed it. Well, the guy who made the video, William Bryan Jr., he was arrested today in for felony murder. Like, he may have been part of it too. That's crazy. I believe. I mean, why would he release the video if he was involved in it? I don't know. And again, it's just speculation. You can't say why. They have to look. They're not going to arrest somebody and have very little evidence. So they have to have enough to go on to get the warrant, to get the arrest. But what it is, I don't know. I don't have that information right now. By the time this comes out, that might be known. But I did want to talk about it because I really haven't. And I know a lot of people were really quick to report on this story. It was something I actually talked about months ago when it happened. And then it just died out. But I think without a doubt, this is a situation. And that I have to say this. Number one, if you're not a cop, or if you're a retired cop, but you're no longer a cop, stop acting like you're a fucking cop. You're not a cop. Okay? You know, you can't be a freelance police officer, EMT, doctor, nurse. I mean, how fucked up would it be? You get in a car accident and some dude just runs out of his house and, you know, tries to start, putting a splint on you, or, trying to do chest compressions on you when he has no idea what he's doing. And you probably didn't need it. Because all of these situations, not all of them, but most of them, where we see a citizen's arrest being made, turns out, well, old Rambo over there had an itchy trigger finger and was looking for a reason to use his new gun. Looking for a reason to show he doesn't have a tiny penis. And stand up and say, look at me, I'm a man, you will respect me. That kind of thing. We see it all the time. Stop. It don't, and look, there's definitely a racial component to this, without a doubt. Because it always is old white dude acting like he's a cop, fucking with a young black guy. Almost always you see these situations. But look, to be fair, growing up, we always had those old white people who'd be running around and be yelling at everyone, telling people what to do. You'd be playing football, you'd be whatever, and they'd come out yelling, get off the yard, you're not allowed to lawn. You find out they didn't even own the lawn that you were playing on. But they just had to fucking yell, because that's what the fuck they do. And yeah, maybe in a lot of these situations, I don't know about this one specifically, but you don't take their shit anymore. And they don't know what to do. So they have to rely on a gun. But enough, seriously. We pay cops. They handle the situations. If they're not there to handle the situation, fucking go in your house, whatever. There's not a reason to pull a gun out on another citizen unless they're in your house. Under normal circumstances, there's no reason to pull a gun out on another person unless they are in your house and you don't want them in your house. Outside of that, you don't need to be waving a gun around. Only things like this happen. Anyway, that's just my take on that whole thing. And again, I definitely acknowledge the fact that there is a racial component to it, but I don't really want to get into that right now. Anyway, guys, curious to hear what your thoughts are on both of those stories, what you think. If you have more of an update on the Texas shooting, I would be very interested to see if there was a correlation. It's a story I'm going to be following pretty closely, because I'm interested in a couple things. Number one, we learned that in the Pensacola case that Apple was denying the FBI access into the phone. And this was a known terrorist, and Apple was saying, no, you're not allowed. And I respect the hell out of Apple for doing that. I gotta be honest, because, look, they put down the whole slippery slope argument. Well, if we give you this access or teach you how, then you can break into any phone. And that really does um, garner some respect, in my opinion. Uh, but it does seem interesting that come out and now then this happens on Thursday. Very, very weird. So yeah, anyway, if you guys have any information on that, let me know. Anyway, have a good evening and take care, guys.